All right. Hello. If anyone's there, I don't actually think anyone is, so hopefully this is all working. Looks like the audio levels are fine. And off we go. So, this is just a mapping stream. I'm not doing anything too fucking crazy. Um, there will apparently be swear words. It's been an absolute dog's breakfast. Not 1 minute ago, I was mucking around with my with this pacer because I couldn't get the lead. I couldn't get the lead sorted out. Anyway, yeah. So again, I don't think anyone's even gonna be here. I'm just testing things out in a way of getting things sort of properly figured out. Um, this is yeah. So I'll be talking a bit, but I'm just jumping on in order to kind of get some direction. Um, and I've decided to do some mapping. And we might end up. I've got my little. This I won't be revealing. Like, this is my world building folder. Um, I don't want to give away all the super secret stuff, but there's not going to be anyone watching anyway. So, this is just in the way of also archiving things a bit, so I can you know keep a track of what's actually going on. So usually I've got a development I've got a development cycle sort of deal sorted out. I've done an awful lot of work, like development cycle. Look at that. And this is my handy dandy to-do list. I've got an awful lot of work that I've done sort of behind the scenes, and I never I have real problems getting it out there. So this is really just me trying to get a start on doing that, and like I say, maybe archiving the process a bit, putting all the things that I write into maybe not even practice, but testing them maybe is a more appropriate way of thinking about it, because it's all well and good to have folders of what amounts to theory, basically. But if it never actually sees the light of day and gets put into practice, it's not even that it never gets tested. It's that you've still put in the work without ever connecting it to a result. I think that's something that I sort of wrestle with. Like, you can tie yourself up in knots trying to figure out how it's going to be done perfectly the first time. Just do it, man. Just get it done with. Yeah. This is also a test of all the. Again, I get the feeling that it's never going to end. Testing all this fucking technology, making sure everything's updated and whatnot. Anyway, so what I thought I would do is, just as an interesting aside, I would pick one of these maps. I've got a little thing of maps here that I'm starting to sort of build up, that I've got to do. I think I might just do either Farnu's shop or the village of Bova. And there's a whole bunch there, but I'm just gonna start doing something. And what I might even do is I'm actually even going to let's do a little experiment with our work in progress. So this is the thing. This is my refined world building method. So I've been working as a basically a professional DM, I guess you could call it. I don't know if professional's the way to sort of think about it. Well, maybe it is, but it doesn't feel like it. I feel like it's a bit of a wanky term. Anyway, this little thing is just it's kind of something that I'm working on, my refined processes that are allowing me to... at one point I was running 7 games a week. Well, okay, let's call it 5 games a week for, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years of Dungeons and Dragons, the world's most popular role-playing game. It was letting me do that with full ideation, with all of the fancy bits and pieces, in a fairly... It was well organised. The execution was always a bit messy, but we'll get there. So this is my sort of refinement. I've taken... I've stepped down from... Okay, so probably 5 games a week. Occasionally I would run anywhere up to 7 games a week, though not sustainably that sort of level. And then I've stepped back down to 3 games a week. And I've been doing that quite happily for 2 years now, 18 months, something like that. Yeah, so this is just sort of my refined processes. And one of my favourite things are these tables, okay? I'm going to generate... So I'm going to say Farnu's shop. Farnu is one of the traders, and I'm actually going to roll a couple of dice here and figure out what the go is with Farnu's shop, what current aesthetic Farnu's shop is. Actually, we might just roll on the shop's table, hey? So I'm not going to show the... I'm not going to show the tables because I'm sort of hoping that I can sell them at some point. Again, I don't think anyone's actually watching, but... So this is, and again, this is just in the means of interest of cataloguing the process. So I've got it down to this many dice, and this, it's not a minimum, because there's 3 sets of 3 here, obviously, and this is actually a dice out of a one of those Magic 8 balls that has all sorts of interesting things written on it. It just happens to be, what is it? 5, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a D20. It just, I ripped apart an old Magic 8 ball that I had that wasn't actually working anymore. The liquid had settled in it. And I ripped it apart to see what was inside it, and bugger me, a D20 popped out with all sorts of interesting answers to questions. So I just kept it. I have a lot of strong feelings about dice, but anyway, I just keep that in there for a little bit of extra sort of oomph. But what we might do is we'll just write down some table results here to generate. So I'm just going to write down... Let's write down 3 results. So we've got a 3 and a 15. We've got a 1 and a 35. We've got a 1 and a 98. So from these results, and I might do a better... I'll do more of an explanation, but basically for now I'm generating what kind of shop Whānau is currently running. The 4 designates which, like there's 400 results. So it designates which block of 100. The 2d10 gives which block of, like which result on that, in that block of 100. And then there are 2, I believe they're called adverbs, like 2 describing words. And then the third result is the kind of shop. So we've got a 1 and a 44 and a 1 and a 92 and a 3 and a 9. This is already probably more productive than I have been in some time. And I'm just gonna... I'll talk a bit of crap about what's going on in life. Okay, and then 3 and 19, 4 and 18, and 2 and 19. Jeez, that's a low scoring. 19, 18, 19. Jeez. Anyway, alright, so that, and those, so each one of those sets of 3 will let us generate a quick, randomized 3-word description which are in these books, and I've got a separate set for I mean, I've even got a list of subgenres in here just to really snarl it up. Okay, so let's go the first one. He's a healer in this one. It's actually got the kind of shop first, and the we get to do. All right, let's do suffixes and affixes. So we'll do a. So I usually go if it's 25 or below, that gets a... So yeah, I know it's a bit convoluted, but I'm still working the process out. It's actually not that convoluted. I'm just trying random stuff out, having a bit of a play. We don't play enough anymore. Everything's got to be optimized and... Okay, so 25 or below. Now let's call it 40 or below. The second one classifies as an affix. So that's 94. That's not a qualifier. 40, 44. Ooh, close. And 45. Bugger it. I'm just going to say that the last one has an affix on the sort of shop it is. Alright, I probably shouldn't keep packing those up. So anyway, to continue, the first one is he is a healer, and his reputation 35. He's a dodgy 98. He's a dodgy individual aligned healer. Right. Number 1. So I've rolled. Let's just see what happens. Okay, number 1. Generalized shop. Actually, okay. We're just playing with random tables at the moment. So 44, he's a builder. He's a builder. I'm actually going to make the first one of the looks of the adverbs that are here. I'm going to open them up to the generalized location tables that I have, not the shop reputation. So 192. It's a dwarfish. Oh, that works. So I'll explain, and then I'm going to say that the third one is his reputation is a 9. Thankful. Okay. So okay, now this third one is on the third thing. Police headquarters. Ooh. Police headquarters. I said that the third one would have an affix on it. The affix is 18, so it's blast. Ooh, that sounds... Blast, and it's a 19. Fencing. Ah, so fencing, so it does... See, that's interesting. That sort of thing's interesting. So my initial thought... Okay, so... I mean, it's a little bit hard without going to demonstrate, like, the nuts and bolts of it. Probably. I don't know if it does seem a bit convoluted, but anyway. So we've got a dodgy individual aligned healer. We've got a thankful dwarfish builder. And we've got a fencing blast police headquarters. So my initial thought is that, and this is okay. So that's the way of generating a very quick, like 3-word sort of I think of it as a qualifier. I call it the qualifier. So it's Farnu's shop, and then the 3-word slug is individual dodgy healer, individual aligned dodgy healer. The reason that I've given it that is because sometimes they want, your players want to go to a shop, and they might find something in the shop that they really want to, they might meet someone in the shop. They might meet Farnu himself. Farnu's an interesting guy who they really jive with, and it might become a central hub for the game. But then there's other times when they just want to go in, they want to do their thing, and then they want to get out, and they won't ask any questions. It's very much like there's more interesting things to do, right? So this gives you enough to go on if they want to get into the nuts and bolts of it. But it's also small enough where you can just kind of hand wave it. Maybe throw in a couple of like little features, like it's things like the fencing, like fencing. So in the context of a shop, this shop sells stolen goods. Interesting that it's a police HQ. So I'm, see, we've got that weird. So what does that then look like? And this is where the full ideation comes into me. This is where we start sort of looking at, well, what does it's not limiting, right? It's permissive. Like what does that look like? It's like in a much more sort of basic, it's like people who optimize their characters. Let's take Dungeons and Dragons, which is, I'm rapidly getting more and more tired of Dungeons and Dragons, I'll be perfectly honest. So this is sort of my way of trying to like snarl the process a bit, keep it interesting. I don't want super mega optimized characters all the time. I don't want every character, every party to have characters that are, I don't want to have a fighter, a thief, a cleric, and a mage. Like the, tank, healer, controller, nuker. Save that stuff for video games. So as a result, like I also don't want the characters to then go to the other extreme and be like, oh, we're cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, and I've got, for some reason my initial thought is a dwarf mage who, and he's completely incompetent because dwarves aren't good with magic. What? Wow, that's crazy. I've got a rogue with 8 dexterity, and and he's totally crap at everything that he does as a rogue. Those sorts of characters can be entertaining for a one shot. They're very hard to get mileage out of for a sustained heroic campaign. That it's also a limitation of the system. Like having played as much as I have, you'll find that, it's, I don't know. It's there's a lot of different things about D&D. I'm struggling for words because once you become aware of how, I wouldn't say badly designed. I'm very ginger about saying that. Maybe you are. Maybe it is badly designed, but it's, heroic fantasy is hard to get right with things like challenges, and there's an inherent limitation with like giving everyone a race, a class, and a background. And there is a lot of latitude in there, but you'll find that certain trends keep emerging. There are inherent limitations, especially, I mean, it's even things like our lifestyle these days. Like we don't have, and I'm not even saying like back in the good old days, things were better. I'm not a victim of nostalgia. It was the good old days of D&D had their own problems, um, to put it politely. But yeah, I mean in the way of like we're so busy these days, and we want to get in, we want to have our fun, we want to do the cool stuff, and then we got to get home because we've got work in the morning, and we've got to go to the markets, and we've got kids and this and that. Like, the pace of life is just so much quicker these days than it used to be. And there's things like, like I haven't talked before, of course. I've talked in my personal life before about what I call the Uber problem. And it's not like, there's a whole bunch of problems with that sort of thing. But it's also things like we can press a button on our phone and food is summoned to the door. A lift is summoned to the door. We can get exactly where we want. We have streaming services where we can play, we can watch whatever we want, whenever we want, without ads for a nominal fee. Give me convenience or give me death. Dead Kennedys, classic album. Go listen to it. We're so much more used to getting maximum bang for the buck, and like that's what I feel like computer games are for. Part of the fun of role playing games is the less than optimal path without going cuckoo for Cocoa Pops and using the, like, it's like optimized stupidity in a way is sort of what I think. It's very hard to play a heroic campaign when everyone's tripping over their swords and things like that. Can't we meander like in the direction of heroic fantasy, but can't we like take we're growing, we're learning, like not even only as characters, like with the level system, but as people and all of that sort of stuff. Anyway, like it's just, this is my sort of trying to work around in broad strokes that weird, like hemmed in feeling of Dungeons and Dragons. And there are, this system also works. I'm also sort of trying to bridge, like, its system. This thing that I'm working on is fairly system agnostic, even to the point where I think it would be a good generator and a set of processes for like writing stories and things like that. It also bridges into, I'm looking at like Into the Odd, Apocalypse World, Blades in the Dark, all of these systems that, like, my one thought about them is they do more with less. In a weird way, D&D sort of crushes it a bit. Like, not as in, yeah, you gotta crush it, man, but in like in trying to give you so many options, it kind of hems you into these fairly specific paths. These other systems sort of set the scene and give you like I feel like they kind of give you a boundary, and then they go, now whatever you want to do in that boundary, you go. Anyway, so yeah, this is just my way of kind of trying to come up with some interesting things. I've even got, like, I hope, and again, this is just a first stream. I don't think I've had anyone even watching, but I've got table outputs. Is there? Yeah, okay. So I've got, these are my influences. That's not really relevant. But this is what I've been doing for fun, is just rolling on those tables and coming up with, a sleazy broken shrine. I mean, you get some weird ones. A dirty paternal slope. But then what's paternal? Like a slope? I'm thinking like a hillside or something. Um, dirty paternal. Like it could be. I'm thinking like because as a guy, as a guy who lives alone, um, you're not always the cleanest, and I'm not talking about wading through your own filth and not showering for days on end. I'm talking more about like sometimes you leave the dishes until the next morning, you know. Sometimes you're down to your last pair of undies before you go to the laundry. Like, just you're not quite as spick and span. And maybe that's not even a guy thing. I think that might just be a single person thing. So there could be the dirty. It doesn't have to be filthy. It could just be unkempt. And then paternal. I mean, I'm talking about it in terms of guys because paternal. I'm thinking like maybe the slope is it could be a stretch of city that is not particularly kempt. There could be litter in the streets and stuff like that, but it could also be really comfortable. There could be lovely smells. There could be like, I mean, everyone knows like remembers, at least for those of us with healthy relationships with our fathers. Um, we could, you remember the way your dad smells. You remember the way his voice sounds. You remember feeling comfort with him. So maybe it's like that. Maybe it feels like coming home, and maybe it's a safe place, and maybe it's a winding road down through a city or something, or maybe a roadway connecting two parts of a city, and it's not the cleanest place, but it's also not filthy, and it's just nice to be in. Maybe that's what that means, just to give you an idea. um you know a weird maniacal shelf. Now, I'm fairly sure that I put shelf in here, meaning like a continental shelf, or like a shelf on a mountain, like underneath it would be an overhang kind of thing. Um, I mean, a weird maniacal shelf, to me that literally means a a shelf in a shop. And weird and maniacal, it's like covered in, I think of religious mania. It could be weird. And then you start thinking, oh, well, what weird religious stuff could it be? And the maniacal part of it would be all fixating on the one thing, you know, the holy prepuce. It could be, is that how you say that? I hope it is. Prepuce, it could be the prepuces of sainted martyrs or things like that, martyrs to, maybe not sainted martyrs, but martyrs to the cause. You could be sitting there looking out, like, just find this shelf and you're like, what is going on? That's a location in itself. That one stood out. And then the other one, a misty angelic orbit. And I was 100% thinking of like crossing. You see those videos of like crossing through, like satellites who have crossed through the rings of Saturn. And what if, all of the interstellar dust and things like that, angel dust, orbit, it's, out in space, things like that. Um, you know, Shops, and then I did some shops. I got one with a preface or an affix here. So it was selling only bio metal items. And I immediately thought of, like, in terms of Dungeons and Dragons, I thought of a Warforged merchant that was like he's basically an organ seller, you know, or something like that. Like metal items and bio. Like, because bio, you think of all, like, the squelchy bits, right? Yeah, things like that, you know. So, yeah. These are, you know, what else did I have in here? An endowed illegal amphitheater. Oh, that sounds cool as, you know, black market amphitheater. What goes on there? Raw materials Arterio was the affix. General. So it could just be, you know, a general raw materials with an Arterio affix. He could be, you know, like a, again, like with the bio, like there's a lot of, I mean, that's another thing with these tables. There's a lot of horrible, weird stuff in there, but that's the sort of stuff, like, it's a great foil for characters, right? So, you know, things like that. General raw materials. There's another organ seller. Maybe he's in competition with maybe this guy. Maybe the raw materials guy sells to this guy, who augments them with metal, you know, with small motors or some sort of, you know, I'm thinking like a special sort of blood with nano machines, son. You know, a mismanaged Medicae with a Festa. Oh yeah, there's a Festa affix. So, you know, mismanaged Festa and Medicae, that all fits really well together. But that's just, and there's so much sort of scope in there, I feel. You know, more locations. A magical crusty layer, you know. Layer can be anywhere. A flooded stony gatehouse. And again, if they're on the road, you know, if your characters are on the road and you say, oh, there's a flooded stony gatehouse sitting off in the, you know, in the bushes, and you can just see it through the trees. Some of them are going to be like, oh yeah, no, we've got to, you know, context as well. It might be, no, we've got to deliver this message to the Queen, you know, so we'll put a pin in that one. Let's drop a pin on the map and we'll keep going. But you've still painted in a little bit of the world. So that's what these little qualifiers are all about. And I've actually gotten quite a lot of enjoyment out of just, you know, dealing with them. And I've just, you know, that's what, like, in the interest of getting it on camera, giving Farnu something else to deal with. I think I might just run with a dodgy individual aligned healer for this one. You know. Farnu's shop. Dodgy. Dadgy. God, I'm having a blinder of a day, hey. Anyway, so it's the date, the 18th. I'll just put the date in there. Yeah, so there we go. Dodgy individual aligned healer. Keep it simple in the interest of keeping this sort of going properly. You know, and it's going to be a fairly large shop, I get the feeling. I mean, this is the other part of the full ideation, right? Like, I pulled out this notepad and I actually already had a single room drawn on it. So that's fun. You know, and we might just start. Now 15, so 15 feet to a room as established by the pre-drawn room. So this might be the pattern that we do. So every 1, 2, yeah, so we miss out. So these, so I've decided that because what I was going to say, sorry, I'm skipping my thoughts. So that, because you can draw this map, and then because we've uncoupled the aesthetic, you know, from the map, we've generated the aesthetic first. I mean, you know, that gives us a direction to move in, but then we can also like take the map if we want to later, and we can use it for something else. I know this probably isn't revolutionary, but I'm just thinking, you know, so I can sort of go a bit nuts here, and I'm gonna give Farnu quite a large shop to deal with, you know, and there's gonna be, I'm gonna say 5 of these rooms, and these are going to be the doctor's offices. He is running a chop shop, big time, and this is, so 5, we're gonna do a general box sort of setup. Each one of these squares is 5 feet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20. 100 feet. And then there's going to be a big pair of front doors. You know, and it's even things like once I, you know, even as I'm drawing it, you think of, you know, I'm thinking of like Alchemilla Hospital and the many iterations of Silent Hill hospitals that there are. But, you know, and this is another reason why these sorts of things are good, because sometimes I can get a bit carried away. Did we? Yeah, okay. So we have, that is 5 feet wide, so yeah, that's alright. There's going to be a bit of a, you know, you don't want to get carried away. I don't want to start doing like Farnu's Apothecary by way of Alchemilla Hospital right immediately. Not everything has to be completely overdone. This is... Oh, the doggies are... There's dogs out the front. There's a couple of dogs out the front having a bit of a disagreement. So, you know, you don't want to... This is a random map that I'm drawing in the interest of getting started on something positive. So I don't need to immediately overdo it. We don't need... I feel like Alchemilla Hospital kind of... You know, I'd love to dip into that more. I think this is going to be more in the interests, like more in the way of... It's a chop shop that Farnu is running as a way of getting some quick cash. It's an individual aligned healer, so it's all... I'm sort of... My idea is that the individual it's aligned to is him. Farnu's an enterprising man. Farnu is he's a death gnome, but he does change his appearance quite often. He's always bald. Sometimes he has a beard, sometimes he does not. And then, and he's like the merchant. He's not always running stuff around town. This was also, I mean, in the interest of... See, this is... We've got a direction we're moving in. I nominated Farnu's shop. Then we generated some random stuff. And now I'm doing the map. And each one of these things can be used later on. I'm going to be doing Farnu's shop again. Because he does have an established shop that he needs to run, because he's kind of the merchant in one of the towns. But he's also... he's got his fingers in a lot of pies. So I'm sort of thinking this is going to be one of the pies that he has fingers in. Is a dodgy... So it's like a... It's like the... I'm not even going to say the black market. It's not like illegal or anything. It's all up to code. It's all above board. But it is the off-market, low rent. Like, not even the public system. It is the place you go when you need good medical care. Yeah, so that... Dodgy in that maybe it's the clientele that are coming in that are dodgy. The thieves and the people with illegal... Yeah, well, illegal wounds, you know. The people with, like, the no questions asked thing. That's what's dodgy about it. No questions asked. Okay. Sometimes people with no questions asked wounds die because they come in and their wounds are incompatible with life. Sometimes those bodies don't always turn up at the city morgue. Like, that's the sort of... We've taken that one little, like, dodgy word, and, like, these are the sorts of, like, full ideation. You think, okay, well, what does that mean? And then what does that mean? And what does that mean? And then, you know, let's say that, you know, down the track, maybe this place exists in a country where... I want to make this one a bit larger. Wait a second. 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So 20. No, 25, 50, 75. 75 feet, yeah. You know, what if down the track I roll up an easily bribable or corrupt city watch place? You know, what if I decide to go with the fencing blast police headquarters and I end up like maybe some of the stuff they fence is organs from badly, from illegally, listen to me, from off the books dead bodies, and then how does that place interplay with this place, and what does that say about the larger, society? What if I drop this on the top layer of hell? Blah, 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 blah. Things like that, that is what is interesting to me, not how many gold they charge for healing potions. So the idea here is also, and we can't really see it. Oh yeah, we sort of can. I mean, this is all what this is about, right? So front door, shop front, and this wall is going to be hard up against another establishment. This one a little bit less so. All right. Front desk with a pair of closets for admin. Probably a worker's, a cleaning closet of some sort, and then a nurse's station. We go through to the core nurse's station here. And this is where, so this room is getting a little bit sort of chaotic. And I think this is where we're going to have, this is where we're in the guts of it here. And we're probably looking at the lunchroom. The social nerve center of the area of the building, and it's a little bit ramshackle because it's probably all there's been offices and stuff in here that have been boarded up and broken in, and there's been walls taken out, and that's why it's a bit all over the shop. These are the doctor's offices. There's no waiting room. They just queue up around the very long corridor here. And then we're going to have things like the laboratories down here. So we're going to just do some fairly large, what have I got there? 8. Yeah, so we'll do things like that. Laboratories, we're going to go down to the surgery down here. put a statue of something in there. It's going to be a very long, narrow corridor opening out into a surgery. And there's also going to be a certain amount of and these are the big, it's the main surgery doors. Off to the side here, we're going to have another big set of surgery doors where we go into so 20. We're going to put another statue. What? Part of the fun of being left-handed. Sometimes you overextend yourself. Oh, come on, baby. Here we go again. These are really good. Anyway, oh, there we go. Yeah. So, and this is just sort of how we end up going, right? We muddle along. I'm gonna say that that's a raised platform for some reason. Right, this is gonna be the main triage or post-op suite. We're gonna go all the way down to the end, and then there's a very narrow, I'm gonna say that there's a fairly narrow area. There's an observation area here. And I'm also going to say that it's dodgy, right? Like we've got dodgy as one of our descriptors. So there's going to be some secret doors, and they're all going to lead, like here, it's all... This is going to lead to it's observation decks of the post-op suite. Okay. It's rather innocuously going to end. There's probably going to be shelves and stuff along here. This is like an extended supply closet right at the end of this very long corridor. Right, and there's also some secret like observation deck, something fishy going on. Right, doesn't even have to be anything fishy going on that Farnu knows about, but it's just these are the sorts of things, those are the sorts of details that make a building interesting, you know. And then there's this very narrow, like this weirdly sort of narrow suite going off. We're going to finish this one just here. So this is going to be like the lunch room, cafeteria or whatever, for the staff only. Right. It's probably going to be one. I'm thinking this is going to be, so this is sort of general practice off around here. 5 doctors' offices, a surgery and a recovery suite with a couple of observation decks. The observation decks are in secret for some reason. There's secret doors to them. You know, maybe for people to be observed while they're recovering. Maybe they'll let their guard down, something like that. Yeah. And then there's going to be, I think over here is going to be like more specialist medicine. And there's going to be, this is where it starts getting, you know, I feel like we're going to be a little bit spooky, along here. I feel like there's lots of these. There's something about long hospital corridors that are just lit by that stale overhead, sterile lighting, you know. That's, you know, the back rooms. I always like. Well, I never got into. I've deliberately avoided any of the mythology and stuff around them. I've read the original, like the 4chan post, Heaven Forfend, and it was the noise, the buzzing of the fluorescent lights, that something really off-putting about that sort of thing. Um, yeah, and I'm just thinking like there's gonna be like, so you come in, there's like long corridors, like it's dodgy, right? So this is the place where, not necessarily, you know, this isn't the blood and guts. This is the, which is weird for a hospital maybe, but this is where there's just something a bit off kilter, right? Again, the dodginess, you know, maybe the nurse at the front desk smiles just a little bit too widely, you know. And they do good work. Everyone that comes out of here, that we know about, survives. Everyone that comes out survives. I'm just saying, like, it's not known as a place where you go in and you never come out again, right? I mean, there's probably a rumor or two, but like, when isn't there rumors about creepy stuff like that happening around places like hospitals? But I feel like there's, you know, there's these long, quite wide corridors, and then there's, you know, but then down here is like, you sort of look around the corner and it's this very narrow corridor just stretching off. Maybe there's a couple of the lights have dipped out here. I mean, if we're talking in a medieval, you know, high fantasy setting, because that's, I mean, that's where Farnu sort of manifests. He's part of the fantasy setting that I have. Maybe there's a couple of the torches are out. Maybe some of the sconces that are there have never been used, even though they're clear and present. You know, I feel like this corner's going to be like a bit of a, why did we get rid of the wide corridors, guys? Like, why are you sending me down to, you know, whatever's in this office? And these offices might be a little bit larger than these ones. I'm going to say that there's a couple of specialists down here, and then there's going to be quite a large here. Let's see, and this is it, right? Like, having drawn as many maps as I have, I'm just going to straight up chuck a secret door in there and say that there is something dodgy in here. And, you know, to me, the interesting thing is, it doesn't always have to be like, oh, we've actually got a satanic cult in the back room of the hospital. You know, there doesn't have to be anything like that. It can just be kind of weird. And I've drawn that. Yeah, that room is symmetrical. And so we're going to put 2 secret doors in there. And again, I'm going to call them long closets. So There's two long closets there. And we're going to say that this one is in a fairly small lab. This one is in a larger lab with another weird. This one's going to be a long closet. I'm also a little bit out of practice with my mapping. And we're gonna call this room, what's something with two heads, the Etten room, because it's got two closets in it, two long closets. And we're going to say that rather weirdly, this one also has a double door on it. And there's going to be, let's put a corner office in, shall we? So this one goes down to there. Actually, I'm just going to put second nurse's station. Yeah, alright. And I'm going to put another two. Two offices. This one is going to be a private surgery. This one, on the other hand, is going to be a little more than a closet. And this is going to be the library. And it is going to be an awkwardly placed room, sort of sandwiched in between everyone. And there we go. There we go. So I might actually ink this in whilst we're going. I was gonna be here for 3 hours just to test out what's going on. I've only been here for an hour and a half, so might be something to do there. So the idea now will be to ink this in. Not going to use these. I'm actually going to use my other thing, my little pencil case of magic. And I'll have a quick chat about this. Actually, I might just go and have I've got one viewer. Nice. It's probably me. I might just go and have a go to the loo quickly. And then I will, let's pull some stuff out of here. So we'll do those ones, and we might just use, yeah, bugger it. And that one. And nah, let's just use those ones for now. Okay, I'm just gonna go to the loo quickly, and then I will be back in inside of 5 minutes, and I'll have a quick chat about this then, and we can get this inked up. I'll do some basic labeling, and then we can finish it there, and hopefully that will be another thing in the pipe. So I'll be back soon. Okay, hello. We're back again, hopefully. Yeah, so there you go. So very basic, you know. I'm not the world's greatest artist, I know, but it's all this is all you need. This is part of the appeal of the hobby, that again, in a world of web apps and like super accessible software, you know, we can, it's even stuff, I don't know, there's just something sort of organic about being able to use your hands. And again, because I'm trying to work this out on my own, I don't. It's probably pretty obvious and pretty obvious to everyone else, but I did find myself getting really lost in like drowning in technology a bit with like what web app should I use and what should I pay for and should I get this and that. And I mean, even to the point like I've got a ton of different tools and stuff like to make hand maps, like maps by hand. And I've got all of these protractors and rulers and stuff like that. You know, I don't have the one that I've probably got like 3 or 4 different sorts of ruler, protractor rulers and things like that. There's something about just getting in and doing it though, and it also, this is meant to be using it's no good. Like, I think I have a problem with the doing, and that's what this is all about. So, anyway, I know I'm going off on tangents, but I'm just trying to get my thoughts gathered so I can squeeze it into something. But, yeah, so there we go. It's a fairly large hospital, but I kind of feel like a dodgy individual aligned healer. Like, this is all going to be funneling money into Farnu, and then then you can go, okay, who is Farnu as an NPC, and off we go. Yeah. Anyway, we'll just shaking me Poskas up. Yeah, so I'm thinking we might run through. Now, what are these? Oh, bugger it. Let's just. I mean, it also gives you space to sort of do what you like as well. Like, I kind of like just how organic grid paper and pencil is. That's got a bit of variation in it up front. This is not going to take very long at all. These Poskas are great, aren't they? I love them. Yeah, I think I have a problem sort of getting out of my comfort zone a bit, or maybe just getting caught up in the pre-game, So I've actually, I know what I'm gonna do there and there. It's another modern problem, right? Like, and again, I don't sort of, it's that weird relationship I have with not really interfacing too often with mapping. I don't sit there and watch people. I'm much more interested in doing it, but I get so caught up in my own stuff. I neither have time to, like, preparing my own stuff. I neither have time to do my own stuff nor watch anyone else's stuff. So it's kind of crazy that way sometimes. So I simultaneously don't know very much about, what other people are doing. But I also haven't got a huge body of work myself. At least not like archived and presentable. I've got a lot of scribblings and very, very poorly labelled maps. Oh, I think I might have just buggered up there. Yeah. But I don't have... Yeah, so I'm just trying to... Part of this is just me trying to get out of my own headspace as well, and I'm hoping that this sort of kicks off me doing more things. I will do Farnu's map, perhaps not on stream, but I will do Farnu's shop as I imagine it, like without... Oh! Okay, we've had a blowout. Fuck. Ah! Posca, what are you doing? I was singing your praises, baby. Oh, well, it's... Oh, damn. It just straight up came out. It just... That thing just fell out. Okay, that's fun. Oh, that's... Oh, well, that's part of the map now. How'd we go? Did it? Oh. Bloody Bonza. Oh, well, that passageway just got a lot creepier. Maybe I shouldn't be so heavy-handed. Let's try and be a little bit more delicate, shall we? Jeez. Yep. No, that's a feature of the map. We planned it that way, didn't we? What was I saying? Yeah, we'll do Farnu's map. That's what I was saying. I'll do Farnu's map as I imagine it, without any of the random rolling. I just sort of, in the interest of sort of showing off it. I'm very proud of those tables. I'm very happy with them. They've been really good. I have quite a few like works from other people, and they are great, but I think there's something to be said for... Oh damn, I've got two doors here that I don't know where they go. They go down. This is the morgue. This is the morgue. So this one connects right onto there, but that... So the morgue's obviously not open to the public. Yep, that's how that one works. fun. Yeah, I will do Farnu's shop. And Farnu is just I mean in canon he's kind of a canon. In the game that he has had the most screen time in, if you want to think of it like that, he's kind of a jack of all trades, general store vendor. And his inventory turns over quite often. And yeah, he's the guy that the characters go to, and he's just weird and just dodgy enough for them to be able to sell all of their weird stuff, their monster bits, and their stuff like that. Their stolen goods, stuff like that. He is the one that they go to when they want to see if there's magic items in town. I just say, oh, let's go see what Farnu has. Nothing too crazy, but this is going to be fun. Yeah, let's do that one first. Alright. Oh. Oh. Oh, we got an even better one here. Should we give this one a go? Whoa. Look at that. Is that dry enough? One of the fun things about being left-handed, I'm pretty sure that happened because of my left-handedness. I feel like, yeah, I'm probably pulling a lot more, although I don't know. I'm just learning. I'm just speculating. Okay. Anyway, yeah. No, I'll do Farnu's shop eventually. But this has been a fun little experiment with, what other side businesses. And like I say, like it might not even end up being Farnu. Farnu might just be the owner and he's never actually been here. Farnu's a relatively stand-up guy. He's a bit creepy and he's a bit weird. He's a death gnome. Which is a whole other box and dice. I've had people who are like, oh, death gnome, what's that? That's silly. But that's part of the reason I made death gnomes such a thing, because I think everyone thinks that gnomes are small and cute and, oh, look at them, garden gnomes and all of that. And I just like to corrupt everything that's beautiful. Okay, I think that's the basic lining there, and we're going to, so that has made me think. That's totally fine. I actually don't mind when things like that happen. Makes the map more interesting. But it does make me wonder about the pen itself. Okay, and that doesn't seem to have much line variation, which is fine. Again, we're just learning. And these are both, I'm pretty sure these are both '07. And this one's a bullet tip. And this one's a pin tip. I think the pin tips might be the way to go, although also seems to be getting a lot of ink. Anyway, there is a lot of ink coming out of this pen. Having said that, I'm pretty proud of this paper. Look at that is some pretty sodden paper. Look at all of this. But it's not showing through, which is quite interesting. Maybe I shouldn't be using paint pens on this stuff. Where else was I gonna do? Look, I've missed one little wall there. I think that's about it. We'll do. So I probably should have been using these sorts of markers. I think I get so excited about using all of these things that I have that I never actually get around to using them, because I get so like caught up. That's the tables. I got so caught up in like designing these tables and making sure they sort of worked properly and did everything that they needed. And what I was, to finish the thought that I had just before, I think there's something good about like making your own tables. Like even if you just make like a D4 table or a any one of the usual dice trail worth of tables, it's sort of like it. If you give yourself permission, you kind of bleed through into the tables. Like the tables I have are very suited to my sort of style of writing and thinking and whatnot. Which again is part of that alchemy of creation, is sort of how I think of the overarching concept, where like sometimes it's really good to have something like a dirty paternal slope, and I can, like make something from that. Whereas there's also a place for having like random tables that other people have written. Support your local TTRPG creators, your local indie creators, and having stuff that you never would have thought of. It's really sort of, I don't know, I like that sort of thing. I think there's, and then you start combining the two of those, and what about this and what about that, but yeah, I think the place for having generative tables that you have written, it sort of gives you a firm anchor in and a direction in your own work. Like if you're just cribbing from everyone else, you never get to develop your own voice in a way. And again, this is just me sort of bloviating. Okay, and then I wanted to do this bit. Yeah. And I forget what else I was talking about. But yeah, that's right. Like I got so caught up in making those tables and those and like this, this book. I mean, it's pretty heavily refined into all of the stuff that I use the most, and I'm not talking like it doesn't have any lists of races or anything in there. It's going to have a couple of lists of like kinds of gods. You know, there's a couple of different factions in there. There's a bunch of different names for books and stuff in there. You know, just to sort of like, and they're probably not going to be long lists, but just to give you something, you know. But there's no lists of like races in there. You know, all of the races of Dungeons and Dragons. That the game provides that. Yeah, that's sort of the way I think of that. Oh, is that? Oh, this pen's a little bit. I am writing on. I'm writing directly over. Lead pencil though, so hopefully that's not going to. Yeah, it's still working all right. I've got about 6.0.1. I do enjoy my 0.1s, but I buy one every time I go to the art shop, and I probably go through, I mean, maybe one every 2 or 3 months with how often I do this, and it sort of ends up, yeah. So I'm trying to. That's again just trying to get it moving, right? Yeah. So you sort of end up, and then even then, this will become kinda. Man, this red is too light. I did not want this color of red, but again, that's fine. Stands out. That's all I need it to do, really, isn't it? Bit of the running through a bit of black ink there. I guess I can't be precious about it. That's another thing that I find myself falling into, you know. Yeah, even drawing this, you know, and this, I need to slot this in somewhere. As fun as random, aimless creation can be, eventually I'm going to have to knuckle down and start organising all of this stuff into a cogent form organisation of the world that these players are playing in. And then, you know, so yeah, it's even things like realizing that this is just a start in itself, you know. Okay. Looks a lot more accessible now, doesn't it? Visible. Yeah. So as fun as this is, and it is a good little exercise, and I will, I'll probably scan this in. This is another thing, like defeating perfectionism. This is perfectly usable. We might end up. I'll obviously need to label it. I think that might be something to do online, or with a. This is another, like, the online tools that I'm talking about. Like, they totally have a place. There are certain web services out there and mapping apps and stuff that are out there these days that are purpose made for fantasy mapping. That, I mean, I could not do a standard of work like they do. And I'm sure that they will eventually be a part of this channel. But that's part of the challenge of it, is figuring out where they fit into with this. I know this is ugly as sin, but geez, it's a functional little map, I will, I'll label this up, and then we can figure it out from there. I feel like there needs to be something in along here. Or is that the edge of the building there? And there's nothing there. Maybe that's it. Yeah. But another little experiment. I'm working on. So these are okay. So front door. It goes front door, nurse's station, front desk, and specialists, general practice, emergency, nurse's station, round, common room, maybe combination waiting area / nurse's station. 5 offices for general practitioners, with a secret observation deck through to the post-op. This is surgery. There are a couple of statues in there. We don't know what the statues are quite just yet. I'm thinking this thing here, like this big stain, that might actually be a quarantined area. I'm thinking. These are the sorts of serendipitous little accidents that I quite enjoy. I'm just kind of hoping, on a practical sense, that thing is reseated. Seems to be fine. Yeah, I don't actually mind. It'd be different if the whole thing was covered, but yeah, I love that sort of thing. And then so maybe that passageway, something has happened in there, and that's what all of this is. Couple of specialists' offices, the library. These 2 specialists are having something of a rivalry, because he's got the big office and he's got the smaller office. She's creepy as all get out, because she's like right around the back. I'm thinking that this whole little passageway here I mean, it's a 5 foot wide passageway. It's, what are we looking at? 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. So, 150, about 165 feet long. And there's 4 specialists back there. So it's very narrow and very long for being in a hospital. So I'm thinking that's the creepy bit. There's always a creepy bit. It's dodgy, right? So, these are again, we've rolled that up. We let it inform a little bit of the design. Another nurse's station, but this one's probably a little bit less sort of nice than this one. This is where all the bitchy nurses are. Special, like, probably, I don't know, magic studies or something. I think that's the Etten room, because there's 2 long closets in there, and there's another long closet over here. They all, so 2 of the or 3 of the 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and 3 of them end in secret doors through to the morgue. Or maybe that's the morgue, or the last, or maybe there's a small morgue, maybe one of the, I don't know. I don't think that there's like a very large morgue here, so maybe it's just, maybe that's the morgue there. I feel like that's the morgue, because then we've got 5 practitioners, 5 GPs, 2 specialists, and then maybe 1 or 2 others, or say 3 or 4 other specialists between 1, 2, 3 rooms. It's probably a poison, a magical diseases unit, and a quarantine or something. Maybe this is a quarantine area. This is a corpse pit that goes down to the sewers, and that's the dirty secret, or one of the numerous dirty secrets. Yeah, I like that. Maybe that's the morgue there. Cold storage with the 2 creepy specialists either side of it. Yeah. And we go, and that's something. And they don't have to be, the morgue doesn't have to be riddled with undead. It can just be a little bit, like, again, I'm thinking like Alchemilla Hospital. Maybe that's not a great, maybe Alchemilla Hospital from Silent Hill, in one of the best psychological horror settings that's come along ever. Maybe that's not a great way to talk about. It doesn't have to be that creepy. No, but these are all, this is part of playing with it, right? So I'll take a photo of that. I'll label it up. I'll chuck it in Affinity, and I'll label it up, and that might be the start of something. I mean, this is also, what are we at, 53? So just, it's also things like I can't stream like drawing dungeons and stuff online, in case my players are watching or whatever. But I'd imagine that this, like the layout, this might even be on a map by the front door or something, because people they still need to know where to go in a hospital, right? And then I could roll a different, this could end up being the police station or something. I don't know. There's a thankful dwarfish builder there. Like, you can, there are things you can do that way. Like, you can take almost anything and crib it into a map if you really want to. But yeah, I can't exactly do dungeons and stuff. It's going to be interesting. Farnu's shop is probably just going to be a little thing in the middle. And I might have some notes around the outside for it. And it'll just become something I can give the players. You know? So yeah, anyway. All of the tech seem to work pretty well. I've had a grand total of 1 viewer. Scott, if you're around, I didn't see you, but that's cool. Hopefully from here there's going to be some regular stuff going on. And hopefully this just gets archived and off we go. I will be shutting this down in a couple of minutes. Might just... yeah. I mean, I've been going for 2 hours. Just on 6. So... I was going to go till 7. But not bad for a couple of hours work. I mean, I've got a fully... and there we go. To give you an idea, that's a fully functional sort of setup in a couple of hours, and I can drop that into anything. It's fully... I wouldn't say it's fully functional yet, but the majority of the heavy lifting has been done. I'm aiming for a scanner so I can properly scan in, and it's not just... I mean, this is just an A4, but scanning in, I need to scan it up to A2. So, yeah. I think I'll try and do this at least once a week. I will work on my little list of things. You know, I'll probably generate them off screen and whatnot. I will start carrying on doing this regularly. So just... and then, you know, if you're watching this, if we're watching this down the track, I've recently been accepted into a Masters of Writing down in UQ. Here in Brisbane. And yeah, I'm gonna be a writer. I'm a student again as of this afternoon, and this is my last tilt at uni, so I'm sort of I'm not even counting myself as a student really. I'm more of a writer, I think. I mean, I've also been doing this sort of thing, and then blocking all of this in. Normally I would go through with a red pen. We go in with a red pen and we label everything. I might do this on... I'll do this in Affinity, but I will go through, I'll label all of this, and then the majority of it is just blocking it all in. The good part about that being that if I have the motor running, it will take me maybe 3 hours to block something like this in fully. And that's including maybe... so my general idea is you have one map plus its block, and then 2 random tables to go in with that map. So there will be something in here, you know, what do we find in the morgue? What treasure is there in the corpse pit? Whatever, you know, who's on the... it'll be some random element that just gives a little bit of something. And then that can take anywhere up to 2 months, 3 months sometimes for the players to work their way through. I had one map of an archaeological dig site that was infested with demons, and it took the players 6 months, and they went through it from wall to wall, from beginning to end. They covered every inch of it, 6 months, and it took me I'm going to say it took me 2 hours to block in, but then I had to put in, I'm going to say maybe an hour or two every fortnight from there to alter like what was happening in other parts of the dungeon based on what they were doing. Like if they, if you kill a bunch of guards at the front here, and then we only make it to, room number 4, the guard, one guard might have escaped and made it back to one of his superiors. That's generally what happens. Or someone sets off an alarm or something and the city watch roll up. Letting players have impact on the world, right? So it wasn't just a set and forget, but the majority of the heavy lifting is generally done before the characters ever step foot inside the place. So yeah. Anyway, and yeah, this is just, I guess I'm mentioning uni because it's all part of me trying to become more involved with what I'm doing. This isn't the only stuff that I'm doing. I've got another channel where I've done a couple of readings. I want to get back into them. Life's just been really full on. Even the last couple of years, there's things on other channels that you can go and see. That sort of allude to that. But yeah, anyway, another one down. Hopefully, and the overarching process is once I've got maybe 10 maps, I blocked in or I didn't even block in, I inked in Crown City. This is in the same city. This is a location in that city. We do another few maps, and then things really start crystallizing. And I also keep working. I think this will be instrumental. It's also a bit of a proof of concept or a bit of a play around with this, which I'm really enjoying at the moment. What do we got? I mean, look, there's, it's just things like the sizes of pages and the amount of squares you can fit on them of different sizes. Things that just make life a little bit easier. Get all the technical shit out of the way, so you can roll some dice, you can come up with some ideas, and then you can go, okay, what does that look like? And we press it through without being too samey. There's 4 tables for locations, and locations are, I think I've covered every aspect of what's going on in here. Every aspect, every relevant aspect of a role-playing game, going all the way from design principles that you can decide up to plans and plots, characters, NPCs, languages, currency, rituals, spells, magic, items, all of that sort of thing. I think there's 40 templates in here to, once you've generated your aesthetic and your map, then you can go through and go, okay, what is it about this location? But for the locations, there's 4 D100 tables, which is why you roll the D4 with your D100. So you go, you know, table 3, result 15. So 4 by 400, there's something, you know, what are we looking at there? Because I'm awesome at maths. Great. I'm getting random texts from phone numbers with letters in them, which is always a good sign. So 400 by 400 by 400, there's, you know, there's something like 64 million, or maybe let's call it 100 by 99, 400 by 399 by 400 is, you know, 63,840, because you can't have two of the same aesthetic. You can't have a dodgy healer, so you got to take that result out. So something like 3.5 million aesthetic results. Not all of them are going to make sense, of course, but a dodgy individual aligned healer seemed to work out pretty well there. I will, that's me. I'm probably just going to keep plugging away. I feel like I'm going to make a new version of this. You know, you can see I've already got, this is like the proof copy. I've got to do, there's little bits of, you know, red ink and whatnot. So I've got to proof this up, and then I'll get another copy of it printed. But I think we're getting pretty close to the final version of that. And this is another one on the pile for the actual game in practice. Thank you for watching. My name's Bodhi. Stealthy Beggar Gaming Services. And hopefully I'll be back again soon. No later than a week. Alright. Thank you.